Anthony. You saw the pain. You saw the anguish. You saw the questions that he wanted answers to because he didn't know. And you have his suicide note. January 22nd, 2009. George Anthony was ready to end his life, to be with Kaylee. And that note, when you read that note, it's going to go back with you. You can read it as many times as you want. There is absolutely no way that the man that wrote that note knew anything about what really happened to his granddaughter, and that's what was killing him. He didn't know. He had nothing to do with this crime. But the evidence that Casey did is overwhelming. Casey's car, when it was retrieved from the tow yard on July 15th of 2008, reeked of death. The first witness you heard talk about it, Simon Birch, gentleman with the English accent, manager of a tow yard, not a police officer, but a guy who for 30 years has been involved in towing cars. He also spent a year in waste management, 2 years in waste management, which is also, I think, important. He told you, he said, I have smelled everything that a human being can leave in a car when it gets towed. People leave their groceries in the car, park in towaway zone, their car gets towed. The groceries rot in the back. Dead bodies, 5 or 6 of them, I've had cars that had dead bodies in them. I've smelled it all. And yes, I would submit to you, he smelled rotten milk too. And he told you that when he approached that car the first time and leaned down to get the VIN number, he smelled something. And he knew what it was. And he told you that when he went back there with George Anthony and he smelled that car when the trunk was open, he said to himself, whoa, I know what that is. And Mr. Birch has no reason to lie about any of that. He could have stopped there. He was very, very persuasive, I submit to you. But we didn't. We went further. You heard from professional witnesses, crime scene technicians, who smelled it, unfortunately, on many occasions. Unforgettable. Unforgettable. Exactly what I smelled. The defendant's own father, even at the time, said, I smelled that before, and I know what it smells like. But we didn't stop there. We got help from the one person who has studied the odor of human decomposition more extensively than anyone else, Dr. Arpad Bhatt. 20 years he's spent studying the biochemistry of human decomposition. The last 10 specifically studying the odor of human decomposition. And he told you that when he opened that can, he jumped back and said, I know exactly what it is. But we're not just relying on his nose, we're relying on science too. He examined the evidence, examined the odor. Now, what's important about what he did with the odor is that he actually took a piece of the carpet, separated from the trunk, so that the odor that he was getting had to come from the carpet itself. In other words, not some ambient odor from something that had been in the car before, but from the carpet itself. And in fact, the defense's own expert, Dr. Furton, agreed that that process would render an odor from the carpet itself. Submitted it to instrumental examination. Now, both Dr. Voss and Dr. Furton agree that at this stage in the science, there is no signature set of chemicals that is indicative of only human decomposition. They both agree on that. All they can say, either one, is that it's consistent. And Dr. Voss, who has researched this more than anyone else, says to you, it's consistent. Could it be from other sources, other things that were not found in the trunk? Of course. But those things wouldn't smell like human decomposition. And you could put together a coincidental group of chemicals to account for everything. You could throw in some gasoline, maybe throw in some chloroform bleach, throw in some carbon, you could throw the chemicals together, but it wouldn't smell like human decomposition because the smell is unique. He tested the odor. He tested the carpet through 2 different instrumental examinations, one for inorganic, one for organic, and he tested the paper towels. And everything he tested came back to one specific cause, that there was a dead body in the back of Casey Anthony's car. Now, the defense presented you Dr. Furton, who is also experienced in this area, though I would submit to you not as experienced as Dr. Voss, because Dr. Furton's main area of interest is in individual human scent. In other words, the sense that you and I give off in life as individuals. Some of his students, as a corollary, do study human decomposition. But the thing was interesting is he agreed that the odor coming from the car is, in his opinion, from decomposition. He tried to propose some alternative sources of the decomposition, such as milk or cheese, but ultimately he had to admit that the items that were in the car, that is the garbage, wasn't sufficient. I mean, I guess it was Dr. Huntington, the bug guy, who tried to talk about, that there was maybe some salami in the salami package, and remember I showed it to him and it wasn't salami, it was a piece of paper. And then Dr. Furton tried to talk about the cheese and the Velveeta packages, and I showed him the Velveeta packages, and there was a tiny little bit of residue in it. And ultimately, even he agreed that what was in that garbage was not sufficient. We have exploded the myth of the garbage as the source of this odor. Even Dr. Furton admitted that no, this garbage just wasn't sufficient to give the odor that was found on these items, and in fact the odor that was still present by the testimony of their own expert, Dr. Huntington, that he still smelled 2 years later. You all in your common life and experience have smelled common household garbage. Y'all have walked past, I'm sure y'all have walked past dumpsters, you've got your husbands or wives, somebody take out the garbage and it took a little too long. What garbage smells like is not beyond your experience. And ladies and gentlemen, when you remove a bag of garbage from a trunk, the smell goes with it. It doesn't stay in the trunk. It was there because Kaylee's body had been there. But that's not the only evidence you have. You have the hair. A single hair was found in the trunk of Casey Anthony's car with an artifact that you heard, I'm sure more than you ever wanted to, about. But an artifact which is only found in hairs attached to decomposing human bodies. And that particular expert testimony has not been rebutted by any other testimony you've heard in this case. You heard a lengthy testimony from Stephen Shaw. You heard lengthy testimony from Stephen Shaw about a test that he did, where he literally told you, I was trying to create this artifact in a hair taken from a living person. I tried to find every method I could think of, every decomposition situation I could think of, to try and recreate this particular artifact. And he couldn't do it. No matter how hard he tried, he could not replicate it. Now, defense counsel debated with him some photographs where there was some darkening and debated whether that was banding or wasn't banding. The important thing about all of that is that when you look at the hairs that actually came from a car, from the trunk of a car or from the inside of a car, the same circumstance as this particular hair, they didn't have any markings on them at all.